Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm very excited today. We have one of our students here who's just absolutely crushing it out there. She's here. So our student's Kyrie. She's here. She's going to share her story with you today, and she's going to share with you her experience, her strength, her hope through this whole recovery journey. Okay, so I'll let Kyrie, I'll let you do the honors. Can you let everybody know basically who you are, what you do, like what's a day in the life of Kyrie? I know everybody hates answering that question, but yes, please do.
Aloha everybody. I'm Kyrie Pua'oi. I'm from Hawaii and I'm a mom of two. I have a 5-year-old, a gonna be 3-year-old, and I'm actually pregnant right now.
Mhm.
I'm a wife. I guess my profession is I'm also a life coach. And so that means I have my own business. I work from home and I care for my babies at home. Um, and so that's a day in the life of Kyrie is a lot of this happening at all times,
Yeah.
be it between having a business and being a parent and all that stuff and life.
Sounds like a day in the busy life of Kyrie.
Yeah.
Very busy life. You're right. And so let's kind of, if you could share, like what was life growing up, right? What was it like? And if you could help people understand, like when did this whole social anxiety thing show up on the scene for you?
Okay. What was life like growing up as a
Hmm.
child? And when did social anxiety show up for me?
I think, yeah, like as it ties together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Growing up as a child, well, I was born in Hawaii, moved to the mainland, to the continent, uh, when I was a baby. And then that was for a few years until I was like 6 or 7. My dad was in the military, and then we came back home to Hawaii.
Mm.
And we moved in with family members, my auntie, uncle, my cousins. Grew up with them for a little bit. Then we had our own spot. And then it's just been the rest of my life growing up in the same place, in the same hood.
Yeah.
And I would say social anxiety didn't hit me, or at least I didn't have a awareness and a name for the experience of it
Yeah.
until I don't actually know how old I was. I was
Mm.
2013 when I discovered this term, social anxiety. And
Hmm.
I was like, that describes everything about me. So
Yeah.
I think there were maybe stages of it, I
Mhm.
guess, that when I reflect back on years before that, I'm like, okay, that's probably what was happening there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I wasn't aware of it until that later time in life.
Yeah, so the whole discovery process it came through in bits, kind of scattered throughout your life, kind of a thing. Is that what you're saying?
Not that I was discovering it. I can just look back at like high school years and where I was so restrictive, like of
Mm.
myself, and like so judging myself, and
Yeah.
like uncomfortable around other people. But at that time, I wasn't questioning my whatever, and I was a kid. Like I also was drinking, smoking, like
Yeah.
so. There's ways that I
Yeah.
got by those things,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, when I became an adult, and then it kind of, these feelings kind of were haunting me more, and I began to question,
Hmm.
why do I feel like this? That's how I found out about social anxiety.
Right,
Does that make
right.
sense?
It makes sense as it sounds like, when we're, in the younger days, once all the crutches are no longer there, this thing kind of comes bubbling up to the surface. Or that comes that point where it's too in our face. We have to take a look at this thing,
Yeah.
right? Um, yeah. And so can you walk us through like what was social anxiety like for you? Like how did it show up for you?
Oh. um, it. just it made me question everything that I was doing, like so much questioning and self-doubt, like especially in a social
Hmm.
situation. It was like, I mean, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, there's so many ways to describe it. There's the physical and sensations of how I would have like blank minds. I would
Hmm.
just feel like there was a lock on my brain and I couldn't break out of it.
Yeah.
And I would just freeze up. Like I know when I would speak, it would always feel like the words were just clenched right in
Yeah.
here.
Hmm.
Um, and I just hated that feeling. And then I would think about things like before an event would happen, I would be just thinking about it nonstop. And
Mm.
and like some of what you described, like I would spend hours or like however much time I had before this event trying to hype myself up and
Yeah.
listen to like my hype music, put on motivational videos. Um, and I mean, it never really helped me. Like maybe it helped me walk in for the first 5 minutes, and then next thing you know, I'm like climbing up. The brain is blank. I cannot, for the life of me, figure out how to say anything. Um, and and then on top of it,
Hmm.
when it's when the event is over, and when I say event, it's like doesn't mean it has to be a big event.
Huge
Like
thing, right? Yeah.
just happening to talk to someone one on one,
Right.
and then just like all the bells and whistles are going off. But then
Feels like
after,
an event, right? They
yeah,
all
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
events. Yeah.
every interaction felt
Feels like
like
it.
an
Yeah. Yeah.
but then following that was like rumination and pining over what did I say?
Hmm.
How did I act? How did I come across? And
Hmm.
the thing about doing that is like I could never win. There was never a time where I ruminated and then was like, you know what? I think I did pretty good. Like I killed it or something. It
Mm.
was always a bad thing that was coming up in my mind of how I just completely effed up this entire
For sure. Yeah.
interaction with somebody else. So, I mean, I could probably still pick out more, but I don't know if you want me to like keep trying to, or if that's a good enough picture for you of what it was like for me.
Yeah. I'm just kind of curious. Like, did you have some like examples of like what, say, like an interaction, or did you have any like personal stories or something you could share?
Specific examples. Okay, the first thing coming to mind is between me and my husband.
Hmm.
Um, and this is an example of something that's like not an event. This was just a daily occurrence for me. And I've been with my husband forever. This year makes 20 years together. So, um,
Congratulations.
thank you. Oh, actually, 20 years was in 2022. So, anyway,
So yeah.
every day I would just be really silent around him because I just had this ever present blank
Mm.
mind happening
Hmm.
all the time.
Hmm.
Um, and then it used to eat at me inside. Oh, I didn't cover that earlier. Like at the same time that all this anxiety is happening, then there's the piece of like judging
Yeah.
myself at the same time.
Yeah.
So just on the daily, I would be kind of stuck in this silence,
Hmm.
just going through my day to day with my husband, and it would make me question everything. Like, am I like, are we really meant to be? Like, why is
Yeah.
this happening? Um, and I would literally be silent throughout the day, and then all in my head would be like, why am I like this? He must be so bored with me. Like, I'm so lame. All
Hmm.
these critical things just beating down on me. And anyway, so I guess that's like
Hmm.
one, I guess if that's a specific example for you.
Yeah.
Something else I could think like is going into an actual social situation. And I mean, and it was basically though the same type of experience of I go in, I've worked myself up into like a good energy. I go kiss everybody hello, at least, in Hawaii, that's what we do.
Yeah.
And I come across, like, from what I know from people, like I can come across and portray a certain amount of like confidence. I'm like, hey everybody, what's up? Kissing them hello. And then it's like, just it doesn't take long into the experience, and suddenly I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
feel like all eyes are on me, watching my every move, and every move I make is wrong.
Right.
So sorry, I don't know. I don't think that was like specific for
Yeah.
you. That's just what it was like all around.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting because there's a saying, it's how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? And I think people, they when they want to resolve social anxiety, they think they got to go do something extravagant out there. I got to go really push, right? But what they don't realize is that social anxiety, it's showing up out there, but it's also showing up in our closest relationships. And the reason it causes that isolation or that feeling alone, even though we're around people, it's because we can't connect to the people close to us. And that's usually where we want to start, because those are essentially our best mirrors, are the people close to us, the people we care about, the people we love, right? um yeah, so I think that's a very I think that's going to clarify so much for the people watching, just you sharing that, right? um and so this the social anxiety, like, what happened? Like, where did it essentially get to the point where you felt like, you got to reach out? Or um well, actually, here, you know what, let's ask this question: is, when you were experiencing these things, what were the approaches and different things that you tried before to resolve it?
Um,
Because I know you're a grinder. I know you were searching for some solutions out there.
well, I wasn't trying to find any solutions until, so kind of going back to your original question,
Yeah.
um, in 2013, I had like just a rock bottom in my life. Everything fell to pieces, and I had to just start over. And we would
Mm,
have people coming to my house all the time, because in this whole rock bottom phase of life,
yeah.
uh, my husband and I, we just went kind of like crazy. We were like party animals. We just were living a whole nother life from what we
Hmm.
had
Hmm.
before.
Yeah.
And so my house became, I mean, I think I was like 30 or on the cusp of 30 or something right around there. But my house became like a college, like a frat
Frat
party.
house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It was the
And
meetup.
so what's that?
It was the meetup spot.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no one ever left.
Yeah.
Okay, so um while this was happening, I would wonder, like, the next day, after having all this party and so much fun and laughing with everybody, why the next day I would feel these, like, I just began to notice I wasn't interacting like everybody else, and I
Mm,
would kind of check out, and I would get so frustrated when people were around all the time. I was like, why does it bother me so much that,
yeah.
like, these are our friends, and I get so angry that they're here. And
Mm,
anyway, so I that's when I figured out the social anxiety piece. And it was just, um as I began to seek out ways to rebuild my life, um like, how do I even transition this story?
mm,
Basically, what happened is, as I began to find ways to change my life from what it just had happened to me,
yeah.
I actually found network marketing. And I'm not going to go off into the weeds about that. But now that I had found network marketing, and I was trying to build this business, and so it's like paralleling my life, right? Like, here
Yeah.
I am in this thing.
Building. Yeah.
That's how I began to seek help for social anxiety, because I was like,
Of
if
course.
I
Yeah.
just didn't have this thing, I
Yeah.
could build my business and
Yeah.
have this other life.
Uh-huh.
So in that process, the first thing I did was EFT. I found a coach. She said, I can help you with that. Um, and it brought me, certain
Mhm.
relief. It made things more manageable. It helped me to understand myself better, yada, yada, yada. But it was like still so much social anxiety was there. And then just from there, like CBT,
Yeah.
NLP,
Mm-hmm.
all the acronyms.
All the usual
Um,
suspects. Yeah.
yeah, like what is that? Like just mindfulness
Mindfulness.
technique, I
Mhm.
guess, meditation and thing. And I mean, of course, all of that brings some sort of something, like it helps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I seen therapists. I tried to do the one that gets me every time, the improv.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
We had that in common.
torturing myself at these
Yeah.
improv
I
things.
remember improv.
I joined Toastmasters, just like I'm pretty sure you said you did that.
Toastmasters.
And I would just push myself like into all these situations that made me feel
Mm-hmm.
awful. And I was like, you gotta just I don't know, you just gotta shift something. And like if I
Yeah.
just keep grinding at this
Yeah.
thing, then it'll go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did. It things got better, but it never did. And even as much as I was able to improve in certain ways, something always just like came back
Came
and
back.
freaking tore me down.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think that's very common because that was one of the things that really drew me to you too, because I knew you were a grinder. I remember on a first recover or discovery call, you were saying, I'm in the world to make shit happen. And there's this thing blocking me, right? But the harder it's like with this form of anxiety, the harder you go at that external thing, or the more you try to fix it through action, eventually you hit that wall and then it comes back and it kind of pulls you down again, right?
Mhm.
Um, so like what was it like, if you could speak about like all of those different approaches and the mindset around them, and the approaches themselves, what was it about them that really wasn't moving the needle in the way that you needed?
What about it wasn't moving the needle? I'm, I mean, I guess comparing to what I've done with you,
Mm,
they just don't get to that deeper, I don't know, that deeper pain layer, that the exile. I mean, that might be jumping ahead for people watching this, but there's just that pain layer that everything else kind of glazes over, I guess, or just doesn't address that. It doesn't
yeah,
address.
right. So it's like the old traumas they're kind of still circulating underneath.
Yes.
Is that fair to say? Yeah. Right. Okay. And then so you go about and you're trying the different solutions, and I know you were going at it for a while, but eventually you hit this point where you couldn't do it anymore, and then you reached out for help. So like what was happening then that made you want to reach out?
When I reached out to you,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I forget already. I think that was like 8 or 9-ish years. I was already going through all of this BS and trial and error of figuring this thing out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a trip to Vegas with my family, so my husband, my 2 kids, and then we went to visit my family members that live in Las Vegas. And while we were there, yeah, I just that that anxiety locked in. So up until this point, I felt like I was at a manageable
Mm-hmm.
state. Like for the most part, for long stretches of time, I was like feeling okay about life. I could get by. Not as much of the up and down, like crying, like
Mm-hmm.
like am I stuck this way forever? I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Um, but when we went to Vegas though, I found myself in that really just that locked state,
Mm-hmm.
and so internal, like everything was always happening inside, and I couldn't get out in of my head and my body to just be like in the world with my family and all of that. And
Yeah.
I was trying to and trying to and trying to. And of course, that doesn't help when you're stuck in the trying, because that means you're not
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
But anyway, the final straw was going back to my husband again. We had gone to dinner. Like, it was one of the very last nights of our trip. And I felt like it took us longer to drive there than to like eat our food, because I wasn't talking. I was stuck in that silent place. And I feel like for most of our trip, I was stuck in that silent place. And so it had already been eating at me, like
Yeah.
thinking about other couples who go on trips and they like have fun together and whatever. And here I am just being silent. I mean, we did lots of fun stuff, but anyway, sorry, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So we just sit at this dinner silent, and I'm looking around other people who are interacting and like enjoying themselves, and I'm just hating every minute of it, thinking my husband must want to leave me, even though I want to say he's never expressed anything like that to me.
Yeah.
He's like
But
totally supportive guy.
yeah, it's like those thoughts came back.
Yeah, so that was when that night we went home, and it was like the middle of the night, and I was on my phone, and I just started like Googling. I jumped on YouTube, and I don't know how I never found you before. I guess just this was my time, divine timing.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that was different was I Googled or I YouTubed, I don't know which one, blank mind, which before I usually was like looking up social anxiety specifically,
Right.
versus blank mind. And so I just plugged that in there, and I found your stuff. And when I read like everything, I just consumed like a ton of your material.
All right.
From everything that I had gone through up until then, like the different things I had tried and me just trying to figure it out, it made sense to me what you were saying. I was like, this is the piece right here.
Yeah.
So that really got me, like, this is the piece. And also just the way that you described your personal experience, I could relate to on every level. And I was like, here's someone who understands me, because in all my searching for answers and searching for help, I never found anyone who actually understood the madness that's happening here. So
Yeah.
I was like, all
Right
right,
up
this
there.
this is the real deal. You freaking knows what's going on.
Right. Yeah. Because I remember we had a very similar trajectory. She's like seeking out solutions, like the improv, Toastmasters, speech pathologists, and therapists, and
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. And so then you come into the program, and we flip everything on its head. So the way you think about social anxiety, yourself, the world, your life, everything, we kind of flip this paradigm. And so how would you say that that started to help you understand things?
I think, well, one, it helped me to separate myself more from what was happening, I guess. Um, so that brought some ease to what was happening, that to understand that there's these old traumas that took place,
Right.
and like, and they're hanging around, and they're causing this like reaction, I guess, in my
Yes.
body,
Yeah,
that, but that's not me. There's like
absolutely.
this thing happening, and then there's me
The real
having this
Kyrie.
experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, shoot, I don't even know how to answer this question, Reuben.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think for a second. I guess, yeah, that would be the biggest thing, I guess, is just creating that separation between
Mm-hmm.
myself and anxiety is how it really changed things for me.
Yeah, it sounds like you had like a deeper awareness of what was happening and why, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And then you were an absolute joy to work with because you showed up and you just worked your butt off at this stuff. And so when you started doing and you started going deep and you started doing the work, what did you start to notice? Um, what did you start to notice in social interactions or in your life in general?
Look at me. I can't even like my smile just pops up. It's like
Yeah.
um yeah, things just got to be easier. I
Yeah.
guess more comfortable. I would just find in little interactions with people. I mean, simple things like going to the grocery store, and it's not like I didn't have anxiety about going to the grocery store, but it's like when you're going up to the checkout
Mm,
and then I don't know, I would feel this pressure. I didn't even realize this until now I'm telling you this, but like I would feel this pressure
mm.
to have to be like,
Yeah.
hi, or like get to know my cashier. I'm a horrible person if
Yeah.
I'm just like, hey,
Lots of pressure. Yeah.
and so things like that, to not have the pressure of, I don't know, putting on like a show for every person I come
Hmm.
across, and having to be social, and then yeah, definitely like the rumination piece was way way down. Like none of that kind of was happening. I mean, I think at that point maybe that wasn't like a huge problem for me,
Mm,
but in the rougher situations, I would say that our work together like really helped that, like keep that at bay.
mm,
um and then yeah, and then I found myself being more with my husband, like just in my day, more able to just be here, like conversing, talking about stuff, and
yeah.
not so like if I wasn't being silent, then I was very like reporting the news, like
Hmm.
it's sunny today.
Yeah.
I can talk about what's right in my face, or I'm a parent, so a lot of times I can fill
Right.
the gaps talking about my children and what they did.
Hmm.
Other outside of that, there's like no expression of myself, like no creativity in talking about what's happening. So
Yeah.
more of that was happening, like little by little. It was a transition, like a small transition of things. I would just notice little things like that, and I
Yeah.
was, oh yes, I'm feeling a little more comfortable around this person. I'm not as silent anymore. Things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. So it's all I'm almost sensing like it allowed you to connect. Is it more like going underneath the surface and going more heart to heart? Say like when you were communicating with your husband, or it, is that what that was?
Um,
Like, and not reporting and not
yeah, I guess you could say it's more heart to heart, more my heart.
mm,
I mean, in me being able to come more from my heart, I think, of course, it's
yeah.
like automatic that I can then connect heart to heart with somebody else.
Hmm.
So I'm sure that that is a thing that's happening. But I would say at that beginning stages, like I was just really just thinking about myself, you know,
Yeah.
like what's happened with my
Yeah.
experience.
Right. And so yeah, so then you started going really deep. Like you started healing a lot of things. So then, when you started going deeper and you really started, because the goal of the program, it's obviously to heal traumas, but it's also to shift you into like a brand new, more empowered version of yourself, right?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
what were some of these, or what are even, whatever you want to share, what were some of these results that you were seeing as you kind of started expanding into like who you truly are, and then experiencing life from that version of yourself?
Okay, like this is the part I want to talk about because I'm gonna tell you, you like having to go back with you and discover or talk about all these things. It's
Yeah.
really weird how where I am now feels so far removed from that person
Yes.
that as painful I can't even like express, although people watching you, I'm sure you feel me on that. Like
Hmm.
as hard as that was and how many years I went through it, it's like it takes a lot for me to even go back to that and identify for you what that was,
Yeah.
what it was all, because I'm living a whole nother life right now.
Really different. Yeah.
so so I'm excited to talk about these things and these things that have happened more recently, and they're just like so
Yeah.
explosive and exciting.
Yeah.
So some things that have been changing, well, for one, like my business, I've been able to take off with that. I mean, I had my business for a few years, and just with the anxiety and stuff, it was like,
Yeah.
I mean, it just was put a damper on everything because I couldn't communicate, I couldn't express. I always felt judged, like,
Hmm.
so I couldn't bring myself to the table with that.
Yeah.
And now it's just been leaps and bounds of being able to, like, I don't know, network and one, put myself out there
Hmm.
because I really just don't give a damn.
Yeah.
I have my mission in my mind, my purpose in my mind, the
Yes.
vision, and I just express it how I do. And I'm
Yep.
not worried about how everyone else is perceiving, what they're thinking, how they're judging.
Hmm.
So there's that layer of it, I guess. And then there's the part of everything is just more clear. When
Hmm.
I was in anxiety all the time, my brain was always very muddled. And like I said, like there's just that feeling of a lock on it all the
Yeah.
time. So it just made expressing anything from myself really difficult. Um, but now I just am like, I don't know, I just come up with whatever I
Yep.
wanna what I wanna talk about, what I wanna say. So that has been super cool in itself. It's allowed me to grow in that way,
Hmm.
network. I can go to events and talk to people and meet with people and not immediately feel that inferiority. That was something I had to deal
Huge.
with a
Yeah.
lot.
Huge. Yeah.
Always inferior, and that, how did I not mention the childlike
The
feeling?
child, yes,
That one
those
sucks.
feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are
Blank
real.
line and the child is the worst.
Yeah.
um so yeah, so to be able to go and just feel confident in what I'm doing and not feel like a child
Hmm.
shrinking next to all these like adults and authority figures, there's that. And then same things, like I guess it's those same feelings but transfer them now into meeting with friends, like I mentioned to you before, like Christmas parties,
Hmm.
birthday parties, um simple family get-togethers. I It's the same thing, like those types of events. I hated it. I hated it so much.
Yeah.
I would worry about, how do I say hello? How do I then interact throughout? And then how do I exit? Like how do I like it's worried every step of the way about like the right way to do this.
Yeah.
And and I would have such a, like, sometimes, so when it came to my in-laws, who are, they're one of the hardest people that I have had,
Mm.
it's been the most triggering for
That's a
me.
big one. Yeah.
Um Things like, oh, so here's a specific example for you. I
Hmm.
wouldn't know how to, like, things that I might think of to do in a situation, like if I go eat at someone's house, I'll do something like wash up the dishes after myself. If I'm staying over, I help clean, things like that.
Hmm.
Natural, like, I don't know, polite behaviors.
Yeah.
but when I go to stay with them and spend time with them, there's so much anxiousness happening up here that I cannot even think of these simple things, like how to just behave like a regular person. So I just like,
Mhm.
I clam up, I don't speak, I don't do anything. And then afterwards, in hindsight, I'm like, I probably just seemed like the worst house guest that ever existed, because why
Mhm.
didn't I think to offer to cook dinner? Why didn't I think to wash the dishes? Because I was so anxious. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, in just these types of situations, um, I can just like function as like a, a normal person.
Normal. Isn't that what we all want? Is just to be normal?
Yes, normal. So I can walk
Normal.
into a party now without mapping out who I'm going to talk to, what I'm going to talk about, without having
Mhm.
to be like, okay, I I know you can handle maybe 10 minutes before you gotta bounce. Like I don't need to have a whole plan for it. I can walk in, hey, say hello, freely talk about whatever is coming up.
Mhm.
And then when I feel like I'm ready to go, then I
Yeah.
go. Like
Yeah.
without
Without
all
the
the
guilt, right?
effort.
Without the
Yeah.
yeah. How does that feel? Because I remember that was one of the big things for me was when I found my expression. Like how does that feel to be able to think something and just express it? Like no fear.
Um free is the word that
Really?
comes to my mind.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, I don't, it's just, I'm free. I'm just free
Right.
to be. And I actually was just telling my friend about this the other day, how I had said things in situations where normally I wouldn't have. And it's not even like I wouldn't have because I had so much fear of how I'd be received.
Mm-hmm.
I I wouldn't have because it, I guess that nervous system lockdown that
Lost.
happens,
Yeah.
I couldn't even think of something to say, like nothing would happen. And
Yeah.
now I find myself kind of like able, like it just comes out of me. Whatever it is
Yeah.
I want to say, it just comes out. And because I
Yeah.
was telling her about that, and she was like, you gotta you gotta watch out. Like that might bite you in the ass, sooner or later. And I was like, hey, after years of this throat just being clenched down, like clamped with nothing coming out, I was
Yeah.
like, I'll take it, whatever. I will
I'll
never give this back. Like
I'll take a bite in the ass over just being locked up all day. Okay. Um, so yeah, and it's like I know you mentioned sharing what was it it was in Vegas with your husband that you
Yeah.
touched on earlier. So I
Mhm.
remember you sharing that just recently. Like what was that? What was that like? Because this was almost like um your second chance in this exact same situation. So like what was the experience like this time?
Yeah, my second chance, and I want to say in 6 months. I mean, I know you don't like to put time frames on things because everyone's different, but
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm like, um, like it doesn't have to take forever.
Yeah.
But so June, I had my experience, the first Vegas trip where I reached out to you, and then December we all went again for Christmas time, and that was like the it was the best. I felt so close. So I have a bunch of nephews and one niece up there, and they're small kids. 10 years old is the oldest one, and then down.
Yeah.
And I, I just, I mean, I want to be close with them. I want to have fun with them. And so there was like, but that anxiety, it blocked me again from, it's not like they gave me anxiety, but just that lock on myself all the time. And so I would never know how to just have fun with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing too, quick side note, like I just have so much more fun in my life. Like I just,
Mm-hmm.
something has lifted off of me and
Yeah.
enabled me to now just experience life in a much more joyous, fun way versus like rigid and
Mm,
constricted all the time.
mhm. Yeah.
Um, so I mean, small things, and I'm getting choked up now because
Mhm.
like we went to the park, we took all of my kids and my brother's kids, we all went to the park, and like uh my oldest nephew, the 10-year-old, he started playing basketball, and so my brother took him to go on the court and just shoot, start practicing. He had just started playing, so like
Yeah.
anyway, um normally in that situation I would be thinking like, well, first of all, I think I probably wouldn't know if I wanted to play or not. I'd be feeling pressure, like if I'm a good auntie, I would do this thing or
Mhm.
blah 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 blah. But in me I was like, oh, I want to go play with them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but then the second thing that I know would have happened is, well, I don't want to get in their way. My brother's trying to train him right now. They're trying to practice, and I haven't touched a basketball since I don't even know, like in school.
Yeah.
So, to me, I'm like, I don't want to get in their way. Like, I can't even play basketball or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't do that. I just was like, I want to play. And then I went on the court and I was like, yeah, I want to play with you guys. And then we played horse like forever. It was we had
Yeah.
so much fun. I had so much fun. And all of this started going back to the very beginning. All of this started because I was like on a mission to have this successful business.
Mm.
So I wanted to overcome this thing so I could have this business, but it's just those things, playing basketball with my nephew.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's good.
That's all that matters. And I mean,
Mm.
if you want me to, I can go into like also just how I went to the strip with my husband and we had so much fun together, and I was laughing and joking with him, and
Yeah.
that there's just more of that, these special uh like, I don't know, like meaningless moments, but they're the ones that mean everything.
Yeah, they're the ones that actually matter. The ones that actually matter. I'm so happy that you get to just, sometimes this whole social anxiety thing, it's hard to explain, it's hard to explain because, normal people will be like, yeah, big deal. You know what I mean? But like we get it. Like we understand how special those moments are to just be fully present and be there and connected with the people right in front of us,
Yeah, totally.
right? Um, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I don't even know what to ask next. I'm thinking like, well, yeah, you know what? That's a good segue because I heard you say, you know, business is great and but you're noticing the smaller things, the more precious things as well, right? And so as a result of, you know, say overcoming this whole social anxiety thing, what do you see that's possible for your future now? Like where do you see yourself headed?
Oh, I mean, everything feels possible, really. I see, I guess I see my business is thriving. Something I've always wanted is to be um more of a involved community member,
Mm-hmm.
like volunteering at stuff, and I usually don't because it's such an anxiety inducing thing.
Yeah.
But now another new thing for me is like feeling energized and
Yeah.
excited to be around people.
Absolutely.
I mean, night and day. That's just wild how that happens.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I really feel like I just get to be more in my own life, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
and actually living the things that I want to be living, like the
Yeah.
experiences that I want to be living. So, I mean, things like I love live music.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I love date nights. I don't usually ever push for either thing to happen because
Yeah.
the anxiety piece. So there's just all these ways that I've held myself back because I don't want to go, and then there's that awkward discomfort of being in anxiety.
Yeah.
Now I just feel so comfortable. I feel so much more in touch with what I do like and what I don't like, what I want, what I don't want.
Right.
Um, and I actually enjoy people that that's what I see for my future, a life filled with all the things that I kept out of it before.
Yeah.
So new experiences, exploring, again, like thriving the business because
Mm-hmm.
I'm unafraid to like move forward in that.
Yeah.
Amazing, loving, happy marriage. So I'm not
Beautiful.
second
Yeah.
guessing it all the time, and
Yeah.
yeah, being the best auntie ever.
Yeah. And so it's like it's almost like I think this is something that I wanted to touch on too, because it's like I want to talk about just how natural it comes. Like, because previously you were like me, very driven, action oriented, just taking the bull by the horns and just you're gonna fight and do whatever it takes to overcome this thing, and even just reach your full potential as a human being, right? And now you're doing it 10x. But can you elaborate on how much more natural and easy it is when you're in touch here, and you're not beating up on yourself, and you're doing it from a more authentic place?
Yeah, it's just, I guess you take the grind out of the grind,
Mm,
or
right.
like you're I'm still grinding because I'm going for it,
Hmm.
but there's not this
Yes.
feeling of a grind in it,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
it makes sense. Yeah.
And I get through what you teach, it's taught me how to go inside and just like tap into that inner self, that inner wisdom
Hmm.
of like, or what do I want to use? Like inner guidance.
Yeah.
Um, so one, there's not all of the judgment, that critical voice that's like beating me up along the way and questioning everything,
Mm.
but also at the same time that that's released,
Yes.
I can tap into just that natural intuition that also guides me. So it's
Yes.
created
Yeah.
like a lot of ease and effortlessness to what I'm doing in my everyday life. And like I said, it's just that lock has been released. So with the additive of like the joy and the fun and the taking away of the pressure,
Yeah.
it just makes everything else flow so much more easily. Did that answer your
Mhm.
question?
It totally does, because it's like, I think a lot of people, what they encourage out there is to, plow ahead, and the resistance is going to be there. You got to go against the resistance. But we can actually work on the resistance, and we can lower the resistance so that when you get in touch with yourself and you use your inner intuition, your inner guidance, there won't be any resistance. You'll just be expanding as who you are,
Yeah. Yes,
right?
there you just encapsulated what I was going for.
Yeah, right. And so another thing was that really, I really was excited when you enrolled was um your sentiments around contributing and contributing to something greater than yourself as well. So how do you see yourself? A lot of the times when people come into the program, they have a certain mission and purpose, right? But it evolves after overcoming this whole social anxiety. Their visions change, goals change. So like how has that evolved for you? And then how do you see that? How do you see yourself getting involved in the future?
Um, let's see, how has that evolved for me? It's evolved in that I've been able to get more specific about how it is I want to serve and show up in the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I don't know, I feel like this might be a little like detailed or taking us off the subject, but um when I wasn't clear within myself about what
Yeah,
was all the things happening, then I couldn't be clear about what it was I was trying to do. I just always had
exactly.
this general
Yeah.
idea of something.
Yeah.
Um, but like I mentioned, I'm from Hawaii and I'm Hawaiian, so there's something that's been very important to me. But with the anxiety came these feelings of like questioning whether or not I'm Hawaiian enough to do work that serves my people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but now because I'm just like free to be me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have this judgment and second guessing of what makes a person Hawaiian enough, um, or enough period to do anything. It's just I can follow my heart that I know this is what I want. This is important to me and I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the big difference, I guess, in how I am approaching my my business, like what's changed.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like it's just you're just I think there's that saying, it's like as within, so without, right? So the clearer you got in here, the more you can fearlessly move forward and take action on things without all the extra baggage and resistance around it.
Yeah.
Because it's coming from your heart, the world needs it. There's only good that can come from it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then the world needs you. It straight up needs you. It needs Kyrie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything, I think I'm all out of questions, but I guess what would you tell somebody who's thinking about doing this type of work, or they're out there struggling, or they're thinking it's just normal to just live like this, or you just have to cope, what would you want to say to them?
Join Trigger Free. Reuben is the man. No, I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm serious. I'm as serious can be.
Oh, I should stop laughing.
It's
Hmm.
like 9, 10 years. This has been my life trying to figure this thing out. Just living in the shadows, man. Like it's it sucks. If you're watching this, you know how much it sucks. And I've tried, I feel like everything under the sun to just battle this beast that is social anxiety. And um I mean, you guys just heard my whole story. It wasn't until I came to this program with Rubin that my life did a, I don't know, do you say 180 or 360? What 180,
I've
I
always
guess.
been confused about that. I still don't know which one's the right one. Yeah.
And this has been life changing, and I cannot thank you enough, Reuben. Like I'm getting teary eyed again because you guys, like it's those little moments that they just count. And it's those little moments that really make up a lifetime. It's
Mhm.
not the big events where the anxiety hits you really hard that, those are just happening like here and there, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it's those everyday moments that the anxiety robs from us
Yeah.
that I would highly encourage you to join this program, because gives you those this program gives you those moments back. It gives you your life back. And 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 that's the truth. And I'll just add, um through the program, because I know, like, it's like a self-paced thing, and like Reuben is really there for you the whole step of the way. You don't just join this program and like watch the videos and figure it out yourself. um with my experience in it, you've really been there for me. And I was so surprised from the beginning how you just made time and showed up and answered the questions, um and I appreciate that. So, if you join the program, you're not just going to be left to figure all this stuff out on your own. You have Reuben there by your side, like really helping you through it. So do it. Do it. Don't waste any more time living in social anxiety that's not even living. Just do the program. Go.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kyrie, for sharing everything. I know everyone's gonna just appreciate it and just feel you so much and just see so much of themselves, in your story as well. So I really appreciate it. I'm sure everybody watching is gonna really appreciate it. And I just want to say how much of an honor it's been for me to just watch you. Like when you said that it's hard to go back to that old version, that's the powerful thing, because it's like it's not there anymore. Like it's hard to even go back there, right? And you're this brand new version of yourself.
Hmm.
And like you said, it's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Okay. So we'll jump off there, and then if anybody wants to book a call, I'll put a link into the description below, and you guys can book a call. And we'll be able to just talk about where you're currently at, and then we can set some goals for you and come up with a plan. And we'll take it from there, okay? So thank you so much again, Kiri.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
Rubin.
you so much. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon, okay?